Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Andrew Benison. I run Prospect Games. We're a startup developer based up in Manchester working on the physics platform Unbox. It's a game about the ultimate postal service, self-delivering cardboard boxes. Yes, we came up with it during a game jam, hence the silly premise. So yeah, what I want to be talking about today is being realistic with your startup venture. Basically covering what you should expect and sort of prepare for personally, what you need to build and prepare for your business, and kind of using Unbox at times as a sort of active case study. We've not released, it's our first title. We started it about 9 months ago. Things are going well, but we'll see. So yeah, I'm going to highlight what we've done right and wrong so far, and hopefully you'll get some good pointers on where to start yourselves. How many people, by the way, are thinking about going starting their own business? Okay, decent amount. Well, some of these lessons will also apply if you're like looking for a job in the industry at AAA anyway. Right, so I'll give you a quick backstory. I'm the managing director of Prospect Games, so I do all the fun business side of things. I started technically on games at Abbey College up in Manchester, graduated from it in 2007, moved on to games design at University of Salford in 2010, that's when I graduated. So I've been working on games for about 8 years, and I put this in red because I got really late into this game. I graduated in 2010, I'm only just starting my first proper game and company now. So really the key to being a startup is actually starting up. You need sort of drive, determination. You need to be able to react really quick because the market's always changing. And you guys have learned a ton of great lessons probably at this uni or wherever universities you've been at. Don't leave it too late once you've left university to get started. So what was I doing during those 5 years? Because I've only just started my company now. So what was I doing? Well, post-university, I immediately went into doing modding. Did Life's a Beach. It's Left 4 Dead. Basically like a total conversion where we were doing new characters, new environments, new weapons. Obviously completely unrealistic, and it was a mod, so I wasn't making any money. So did landscaping. Was never as happy as this guy ever doing this. This was like summer of 2010, which was just rain non-stop. So that wasn't very fun. Didn't get Life's a Beach done because it's completely unrealistic. So that's another thing. Make your first thing realistic and actually achievable, otherwise you'll just be miserable. So we did Gridlock, released that. That was fun. Again, no money. So did Bypass. So this was when we kind of started Prospect in like 2012, 2013. And this was our attempt to get into the mobile market. Pretty much failed, but again, at least got something out there and made a tiny bit of cash. That wasn't good enough though, so I ended up working at a pet shop for a while, selling various rodents. So overall, graduated from uni, been working on games. Who thinks this sounds like a pretty good post-uni life? No, wrong, incorrect. Okay, this presentation is entirely for you, sir. Because it's a terrible post-uni life. Why? Because I spent 3 years learning how to make games and, more importantly, learning how to make money from making games, from selling them, and I wasn't doing that. I was basically 25 grand in debt, not doing the thing I want to do to pay off that debt. I'd spent 3 years building up skills and spending all this time and money, and I wasn't putting any of that into practice. Why? Well, it's something that if you're a graduate or you're a student about to graduate, you're either facing this or about to, and it came down to I wasn't prepared for post-uni life. You have this relatively comfortable, kind of rigid, timetabled lifestyle for 3 years where you've got your student loan and you've got deadlines. All of that suddenly comes crashing down when you leave. This is kind of a no-brainer, but it's amazing how many people get hit by this. So immediately faced with isolation because you move home, your friends move home. Because of that, you have a lack of creative inspiration. You can't bounce ideas off of people. I mean, we were doing stuff in the evenings, the modding and mobile games, but it's just not the same as being with people. And to an extent, you completely lose a lack of understanding of money because you've got the loan, you don't understand the importance of basically keeping yourself going. I'm not saying no one here understands that you need a job to live, but it sort of does encroach somewhat into how you start a business. The university lifestyle is not a field fit for starting a business in my opinion. So that was basically like 2010 to 2013 for me, but now I have this 7-person team, we've got an office, we've got this new IP, we've got a load of people excited about it. So what changed? How did I go from nothing to something? Not everything, but getting there. How did I go from gardening and rabbits to running my own business and working on the game of my dreams? Although making a game about cardboard boxes rolling around is not the game of my dreams, but it's a start, it's on the way. So it came down to me being realistic about how I need to conduct myself, realistic with my plans, my thoughts, everything. Or at least I thought I was being realistic when I started this. Everything's gone massively over schedule, over budget. So again, hopefully I can pass on some lessons so you can dodge a few bullets. So first off, I want to turn attention to you guys. I want to help prepare you for the startup route if you're thinking about going down that. And again, like I said, to an extent, this will help with joining a studio. and I want to focus on what you need to build. So, oh God, this has all gone terrible. You're not going to see them. Okay, right. So first things first, if you're going startup, you're all businessmen, all of you. Like, you are running a business. You're not making games, you're running a business that makes games. That's a really important distinction to make. You're not a hobbyist, you're not a modder, and you're not someone who's just in it for the love of making games. It's because you want to make money, you want to make a living and a lifestyle off of this. You are going to be putting your life, your team's life, and your futures completely on the line doing this. It's a massive risk starting up a business. But you're doing it to make it sustainable. And that means facing up to a number of realities and realizing that you're going to be going way outside of your comfort zone. I spent 3 years learning how to use engines and designing levels and all that kind of stuff. And for this project, I've done none of that. I've been in spreadsheets, I've been in meetings, I've been in Trello. I've done everything but making games. So there are going to be lots of sacrifices you're going to have to make. So yeah, it comes down to making good games and making really good products are two very different things. So you might have an idea for the best sort of garden maze-based game ever, and like 25 people are going to play that, because that's not the in thing. That's not really what people want. So you might make an amazing game, it's not going to sell. And on the flip side, you might make something that's not very good, but you sell it really well and make lots of money. So logic almost doesn't apply to this realm. What it comes down to is, what do I want to make versus what does the consumer want me to make? Because you are going to want to make the game of your dreams. That's not necessarily what the market wants. And for prospects, we were doing stealth games, we were doing racing games. It was only when we stumbled onto Unbox and then actually put that idea out there and saw that loads of people liked it that we were like, right, we should work on this. And the design of Unbox initially started very much as, we should throw this in and that in because we'd like it. As we took it to more shows, got more people coming in doing QA, went to more testing events, we started to become consumer driven. People would say there's no interaction between the boxes, you're just rolling around. So we were like, all right, let's add like a Mario Kart weapon system. Now they can interact with each other. So we started to become more consumer driven. And again, this seems like no-brainer kind of info, but it's amazing how many teams get into, let's just work on this game for 2 years and not show anyone, and then hopefully somebody will like it. It's not going to work. So selling is more than half the battle. It should be an everyday part of your life. You're not just a businessman, you're also a salesperson. You are going to be selling constantly. From the moment your project starts, and actually, before your project even starts, you're going to be selling this product. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, you need to be selling it to your team. And you might just be a lone developer. You still need to sell it to yourself. I mean, how many Halos and Gears of War games have come out? How many thousands of games behind those that are just scribbled on a napkin that fell on the floor, that just didn't make the cut? Many. So you've got to really nail your pitch, first to yourself, then to your team. Next, you've got things like publishers. You've got to be selling to them way before the game is ready to release. You need to show them the overall vision, what's going to be coming at the end, the sort of light at the end of the tunnel. They want the next, Thomas Was Alone, or the next, Halo, whatever it is. You've got to show them that, okay, your game might not be that, but it's going to do well. You've got to sell to journalists. Again, way before release, you need to be convincing them that day one, you should be reviewing this. You should be doing previews 1 month before release. You should be doing coverage on DLC we've got planned 2 years down the line. You've got to be selling to your audience, most importantly, because they're your consumers. They're the ones who are going to be buying the game from you. And again, that doesn't start on release. You need buyers in order to sell. And if you launch your product with nobody ready to buy, guess what? You're not going to sell, especially in this market, as a slide in a moment will cover. And as you probably know, Steam market and everything's pretty saturated at this point. So you need to be selling to them right from the get-go. Guy in the elevator with £1 million. This is why they call them elevator pitches. You step in, you've got till floor 5 to pitch to somebody. Might be guy of money, might be the journalist, might be the publisher, who knows. You've got to be ready to sell this game whenever, wherever. And selling is more like this now. That previous pitch was one of these. Selling is very difficult because there's a lot of us now. There's a lot of games developers. There's a huge audience, but the audience, while it's growing, individuals' annual sort of budget on games isn't. Their time to play games isn't. And if you start a game and aim it for a target market and you don't release that game for another 2 years, guess what? Those people have just aged 2 years, which means they probably have less time to work on games. So we're facing a really big problem right now in the industry of there being way too many games coming out on these, on only a couple of platforms on a very regular basis, and it's becoming increasingly harder to sell. And so a bit of doomsday stuff. I'm sure most people have seen articles like this, more games released this week than in our entire lifetimes combined, and all that kind of stuff. It's true, and For consumers, it's great. Let's not get this mixed up. Like, consumers are going, hell yeah, there's so many games to play. This is amazing. Steam, constant games, constant DLC for them. For developers, it's like too many games. This is really bad. And as an example, on the right there, we've got all the games that were at EGX, and there we are. Now, most of those games aren't AAA. The majority of them were part of the Rezzed section or the Left Field collection or the Indie Mega Booth section. You start to get a feel for just how much competition you're going to be facing if you're entering into this world. And this is how things are now. I don't know when your product's ready in 2 years what things are going to be like. Maybe there's a crash, maybe it continues to boom, who knows. What I know right now is that things are pretty saturated. And this is a part of this whole indie-pocalypse stuff. The guy who runs Steam Spy was basically collating information. And that shows that as soon as Greenlight Games hit Steam, we had a sort of drop in median sales for games. And this is kind of evidence that, oh, it's all terrible and independent development's dead and all that kind of stuff. The article goes on to explain that, okay, as long as you've got a good game, like the top sellers in the sort of indie category are still surviving. Provided you've got a good game, good route to market, good PR campaign, you're probably still going to survive. It's just the odds are more stacked up against you. So something you're going to have to prepare for is making a lot of sacrifices because you're going startup. So first off, time. You don't have enough time because you don't have enough resources. There's probably not going to be many of you on the team. You've got to get a game done soon. You know, you can't be spending years and years like these big mega titles. So you're going to have very little time. You're also going to have very little money, especially if you're starting with like a 2 to 5 person team. You're going to need a lot of money to start up with to begin with, which means you're all going to be taking pay cuts. You're all going to say, oh, I can make cuts here, there, and everywhere. How long are you going to be able to do that for? How long can you eat rice for? And only rice. Experiences. This is a big one, because to experience things, you need time and money, and you're not going to have either of those. So even when you do have a little bit of time and money, and your friends want you to go to the pub, or you want to do that holiday, or you want to do this or that, sorry, lots of deadlines looming, you've got a game to make. So you're going to have to make sacrifices there. And that's going to directly impact your relationships, be it your friends, your family, partners, whoever it is. You're not going to have time for them. And oftentimes, you're going to be turning to them, asking them for cash. You're going to do, that's the usual thing, you go the friends, family route. And you're going to ask them for cash so you can see them even less, so you can work on your big startup dream. So that's going to be a big sacrifice you have to make. And yeah, so right now, the indie salary report last year, this shook some people up because it basically showed that, yeah, solo indie devs, their salaries are down. Most salaries for devs, indie devs are down. Game sales made up indie's game dev income by 57%. So it shows at least like over 50% of us have realized if you're going to succeed at this, you have to do it full time. Don't bother trying to do this like in your evenings. We tried that with games like Bypass. Many people try it. It's really difficult. You either end up doing really small stuff, and maybe you'll succeed, but you'll likely end up taking way too long on your project. It takes you like 2-3 years of evenings to release. There was a game called Master Spy that just came out that was 3-4 years in the making. If it had come out when Gunpoint came out, it would have had 500,000 downloads. It got 500. And it's a game that's easily as good as something like Gunpoint. And it's because they spent 3 years making it. So 57% made under $500 in game sales in the indie realm. And that's solo and teams combined. That's really, really bad. The odds are not for any of us at this stage. But 2% made over 200,000. So that's pretty good if you can get into the 2% category, but what are the odds? Well, they're right there. Plus, $200,000 isn't that much. Especially if you have 4 or 5 person teams, $200,000 going to last you that long to pay them for the office, for travel costs, for promotional costs, whatever it is. Maybe you could make it stretch, but probably not. So that's going to be a big risk. Big thing is becoming tactical in your thinking. You can't be acting in the here and now, and you can't be saying, oh, we're going to make this game and then release it in 2-3 years' time. You have to be always planning and always thinking. And something that I found really helpful is reading up on tactics. Obviously, there's business books and game design books you can read. I found stuff like this really useful. So Book of 5 Rings is written by a samurai, a great way to conduct yourself personally, how to deal with adversity. The Art of War is it's a book about warfare, but it applies very much to how should I organize people? How do I deal with changing environments? How do I deal with external threats? And even when I'm not doing that, you're only going to have a few hours a day of R&R time. And most of our time will be spent doing washing or cooking, whatever. So I choose to spend that time doing rock climbing. And that's great because it gets me out, it gets me unplugged, and I highly recommend you don't play that many games when you're not making games, or your body will literally fall apart at the seams. Get out, go do something, run. I do climbing, and that also helps me tactically think. It's keeping my brain active. I'm trying to use my free time in a meaningful way, and I advise you try to do the same. Prepare to slam into brick walls. This is going to be a constant feature of your life is stop starting. So first off, consumers aren't going to get your game because player information is like the number one. That's the hardest thing. Like if I ask any of you guys, make a guy jump in a game or make him shoot. You'll be able to do that. Might take some time. That's doable. Try tell somebody how to shoot a guy in a game. Try create a tutorial that seamlessly gets people into the flow in a minute. They fully understand the controls. Really difficult. So they're not going to get the game, and you're going to constantly be slamming your head against a wall. Publishers won't want to talk to you because there's thousands of us. Why would they want to talk to you? Just like every other two-person team with that big, Minecraft-style 2D zombie voxel racer, whatever it is. You're just like everybody else to them. So you've really got to prove yourself, and that takes time. They've got to see traction. They've got to see growth, and they've got to see tenacity from you. So for us, building up relationships with publishers took about 4 or 5 months before anyone really started to take us seriously. And that was routine events that we were attending as well. Platform owners won't get back to you because, again, everybody wants to be on PlayStation. Everybody wants to be on Steam. They're inundated. And again, like publishers, it just requires you to constantly maintain relations. For that, it's taken us about 9 months to establish proper connections with the major platform holders. And that's 9 months of us traveling internationally as well. So that's going to cost you money. Journalists aren't interested in you because, wow, well done, you've started another Kickstarter story, or yeah, you've got another 2D platformer. They're not interested, they need a hook. And so you're going to be workshopping a lot. How do I pitch to somebody? How do I cold pitch an email? How do I approach somebody and convince them in 5 seconds that this is absolutely the game they should be previewing, reviewing, doing let's plays of, whatever. You're going to doubt yourself a lot. This is the main brick wall you're going to slam into is no one's ever ready to go startup, which is exactly why you should go startup, because you learn as you go. But it means you're going to constantly doubt yourself. You're going to constantly think, I've made the wrong decision. People are going to tell you you're screwing up. It's going to be rough. You'll always doubt yourself. And it's a case of you are your own worst enemy. And as a side thing, hasn't happened with me, but I know plenty of devs where their friends and families completely disapprove of this lifestyle. I mean, games development still has a bit of a stigma going for it, and especially when you're saying, oh, I'm going to make a game and it's going to cost, tens of thousands of pounds. I need you to bankroll me. They're going to be like, not too sure about this. So you're going to get a lot of disapproving looks at the Christmas dinner table. So you're going to be proving yourself to absolutely everyone constantly all the time. So much like being a salesperson, you're always trying to sell the idea. 90% of startups fail, probably. I mean, this is kind of anecdotal. I read through, this is from a Forbes article. It's kind of true, but not really, and it's dependent on the market. But generally, yeah, that EGX list, most of those games there, it's their first game. Most of them won't be back for their second game. I've been doing events like Rezzed for about 4 or 5 years, and I can remember most of the guys who were at the first one are not there now. They're gone. So most people fail. That's not necessarily a bad thing. On the flip side, this SBA group, they look at small businesses in America. They show that at least by the end of it, a quarter of businesses stay afloat by 15 years. And we're only really looking at the next sort of 2 years. So you have a good chance of surviving as long as you play your cards right for the next few years. I really like things like Indie Game Advisor. It's just a bot that tells you you're going to fail, because most of us are, and it's fun to tweet these things to people. It really riles them up. So what do you need to build? That was a bit about the preparation, a bit about the mental state, well, what you need to prepare for yourself. In terms of building, you need to build a really efficient, hardworking team. First things first, and whether you're a solo dev or you're 3-person, whatever it is, you need the best people possible, because you're all going to be handling multiple roles. You're going to be doing management, PR, design, making the coffees, taking out the bin, whatever it is. You're going to be doing a lot of things at once, so everybody needs to be dedicated to the cause. So, as most of you are in uni or graduating, if you've got a good uni team that you've been working with, stick with them. That's what we did. So our 3 founders, including myself, we were at uni working on games for 3 years. Most of us were working on the modding for a few years after that. It really helps. It really helps because you know how each of you work. You know your likes, your dislikes. You just gel better. Agree on defined roles and structure. This is the thing I've seen kill most dev teams, is before they even get to their first show, they completely pull themselves apart because they all take an equal share in the company, or they don't really define who's in charge. And that leads to a lot of bickering and infighting, especially when money starts getting introduced to the scenario. You'd be amazed how quickly friends turn on each other when money is introduced and suddenly someone's getting more of a share than they should. So that's been the #1 killer. Fortunately, we avoided that because I've very tried to define things quite rigidly in terms of the power structure, but then let everyone in their competency. So Jack is our level designer. I let him do design. I steer the ship, but I let him make the decisions on that front because I trust him. So it's very important to be rigid, but also flexible when appropriate. Try grow through trusted connections. So everyone on our team has joined us since. So we started as a 3-person team, and now 7. Everyone who's joined us, at least one person in the team already knew them really well. And it is a bit of a case of it's who you know, not how good you are in the industry. There is an element of that you might be really good for the job, but I might just not get along with you personally. And that means we're not going to do very well stuck in a bedroom together for 3 years, making the indie dream come true. So find people you can trust. And you'll end up like these people. They'll be really happy. Right, your business must be product orientated. You're not making some art product. You're not just doing something that makes you feel good. You're running a business. Businesses sell products. You need money in order to run a business. So become product orientated. So you need to be concepting your idea, selling it to the team, planning it completely, planning everything so you can then budget it. Do you not have enough money? All right, go back to the planning stage or go find investment from somebody. You then need to develop it. Throughout that constant process, you need to be flexible and reacting fast. And then when you release the game, you're also not done because you're thinking about how to monetize that product further with post-release content, or you're thinking about the next title, or you're thinking, I need to shut this company down quick because we failed, we need to start again. Basically, money is oxygen to a business. If you run out of it, you stop functioning and you immediately die. It's as simple as, if you don't have cash, the lights don't stay on, no one will stick around. And it's amazing, again, how many developers just sort of wing it. And that's why 90% probably fail. So don't run out of oxygen. Develop a process for everything. Another thing on the winging it front, without goals, you're going to be completely aimless. So you need a goal at the end, a sort of light at the end of the tunnel again. But there's no point having goals if you don't have a plan to reach that destination. You're not going to get anywhere. And you also need to be adaptive as you go, which means you need a process for absolutely everything. So what happens when plan A fails? What's your plan B? What's your social media strategy? Are you going to focus purely on Instagram? Are you going to use Vine? Do you have a Facebook page? How much money are you going to put towards it? What happens when that Facebook management, ad management campaign fails 6 months through? You've spent a bunch of money. How are you going to change that? What's the backup? What's your process for gaining player feedback, for learning and building and improving your title? What events are you going so you can get consumer feedback? Which QA companies are you going to? Who do you know who can help out on this front? Teamwork, what happens when there's infighting? What happens when there's an issue? What happens when someone just decides to quit because they can't take it anymore? What happens when you really need people to join right now, like a situation we're in, and there's nobody anywhere near you, and deadlines are looming, and we need someone last year working right now? What's your backup plan? So you need a process for everything. And again, if you're the manager of a team, that's pretty much going to fall down to you asking your team members, do contingency plans, do risk analysis for me. What are the elements of the blueprints that we're working on that are a bit shaky? What are the things that Epic has said they might fix but aren't? Because that's the thing that one day before release is going to completely screw us over, and we need a process to deal with that. So, Unbox, where are we at? Unbox has gone from 6-month dev cycle to 17 months, but that happened relatively early in the development cycle. We realized we had something really special and that this could grow to be big. But of course, that's a pretty major jump in dev cycle. So advice I'd give to you is really try keep your first product small. Try keep it something you can get out really quickly. Basically, so that you can fail fast. You're probably going to fail on your first project. Most people do. They don't see a return. So make something small that you can fail on really quickly. Learn from it, and then you're not going to make those mistakes second time. And you're not thinking about closing the company because you didn't put that many resources into it. For us, it's going to cost over $200,000 by completion. And as we saw before, that whole stat on 60% of people only making $500 a year, we've got a bit of an uphill struggle to face. So again, try keep your costs low, which ties into keeping it small, keep your team small, keep your project small. So that means we need to sell about 40,000 copies minimum to get out of the red and into the black, which again is a lot. That's a big risk. And I think it's almost crazy to be doing what we're doing right now. By next year, I don't even know what the situation is going to be like. Maybe there's a crash, maybe there isn't. You guys are sort of entering into a really weird period where everyone's talking about this being a crash. It's not a crash because do you remember Facebook games? Do you remember how PC games died in the early 2000s? Do you remember how There's the Sega crash or the Commodore. They're all defined as crashes. They're not. It's just fluctuations in the market. And we're currently on a sort of a bit of a downwards in terms of the money that we can make, which means you guys have a really interesting thing coming, which is something's going to surge back up. There's a wave that you can ride, and if one of you figures out what that wave's going to be, you're going to make a lot of money. You're going to be one of those, you're going to be the Braid of the next generation, maybe. We recently got through on Steam Greenlight, so we went in with a really solid PR plan in terms of getting promotion out there. We shot up to number 2 in about 4 days. We got greenlit in about 2 weeks. We did this while we're at EGX, so we were able to drive people from Greenlight to our EGX demo pod and vice versa. That went really well for us, and so I'll probably be doing a post-mortem soon, and I highly recommend you read it because everyone's been asking us how we did this. And I'm happy to announce as well that we finally settled on a publisher, Sold Out, who have had a very, very long history in publishing games, both box, and now they're moving into the digital realm. And this is something that, again, it took us about 8 months to meet pretty much all the major publishers. They've all spoken to us. And we settled on Sold Out, who's by no means the largest, but absolutely, in my opinion, the most effective. So that's another hint and tip. Don't focus on just the big name. Everybody says, if I ask anybody, any indie dev, who do you want to get published by, they'll go Devolver, something like that. That's not necessarily right for you. Just because it works for another game doesn't mean your title's going to work with Devolver or 505 or whoever it is. So don't jump the gun. Work on this stuff slowly but efficiently. Don't rush it. And when you find the right publisher, don't just immediately put pen to paper. Meet them, get to know them, find out about their history, find out about their backlog, and maybe you'll be successful. Hopefully I'll be here next year talking about our success, or maybe not, and we'll be doing a breakdown about why we failed. So, just to recap, assemble a strong team, set achievable goals, develop a process for absolutely everything, aim for success, prepare for failure. You're probably going to fail, so don't let all your eggs be in one basket. Make sure there's a backup plan. Thank you.
Massive round of applause. Thank you
Questions at all?
Yeah, we've got a minute or so for questions while we set up the next one.
Any questions?
Just want to say, Unbox was one of the favourite games I played at EGX.
Oh, brilliant, thank you.
Great, and the little stickers, amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, so there you go. Any questions, very briefly? We've got, okay, one.
You mentioned that it would take you about £200,000 to create a product. Where would you say the majority of the costs go?
Staff. Not all, I mean, that's pretty much always the case with any company, is staff is the most costly. For us, we managed to save a load of money on our office space. I basically always go for deals, because staff's always pretty much going to cost you the most. So our office is this amazing inclusive package. Not even paying for electricity, so you can imagine we have everything turned on all the time. It's great. But yeah, staff's the main cost. And even then, that's everyone being paid nothing. We're all taking massive pay cuts on this. So, you know, basically just Google average games industry salaries. You know, most people are expected to be paid like sort of 20, 25 grand by the time they've been working in this industry for a few years. We're all on like 18, 17 grand. So it's going to be staff costs, but remember, you can't live like that forever. So things are going to cost a lot more.
Okay, one last question. Yeah, okay.
When you have a studio, do you focus primarily on having like coders and designers within the studio and outsource the artwork, or is that a key part of the development process?
For us, we've tried to keep as much stuff. So basically, we have one person in every category thereabouts. We've done a bit of outsourcing. The problem with contract work is, you know, what somebody might take a few days to do in your studio for a salary, someone might be able to do for a few days as a contractor, but it's going to cost a lot more. Contractors cost. It's also, are you structurally set up to handle contractors? We've got a local server in our office. It's kind of hard to access from outside because we just sort of bodged it all together. So it's really hard to get work externally. It basically comes down team to team. I really like having a strong core team right next to me in the same room, who I'm going to grow with and develop this business over at least the next 5 years. Other companies work much better as individual devs, just doing contract work. Personally, I don't like it. I did it for years with modding, and it was horrible, hated it, but some people love it.
Okay, thank you very much for the round of applause, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.